I'm Adam Walker, a biometrics consultant, and this is the Pharma Prescribed podcast, where leaders, innovators, and hidden voices in healthcare open up. No sound bites, no spin, just raw insight, one prescription at a time. In an industry driven by data, protocols, and pressure, we rarely pause to ask the human questions. What drives us? What breaks us? And what truths live behind the titles we wear? Sverre Bengtsson is a trailblazer in clinical trial innovation and digital transformation. As co-founder at Viedoc Technologies, he's helped shape one of the most widely adopted eClinical platforms in the world, streamlining trials across more than 80 countries and empowering thousands of research teams to work smarter and faster. He serves as an active board member of the ACDM, the Association for Clinical Data Management, reflecting a deep commitment to advancing data integrity and operational excellence across clinical research. With over 3 decades of experience, Sverre is also an active angel investor, backing more than 30 life science ventures across Europe. Sverre, welcome to Pharma Prescribed.
Thank you very much, Adam. It's really an honor and pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Your reputation precedes you. We spent quite a bit of time together recently at various conferences, and you were one of my most wanted guests on this podcast because wherever I go, you appear to be there. And wherever I go, you appear to be on stage talking to people. I don't know what your secret is, but clearly your reputation also precedes you within the industry. You're a really charming man to know. And
thank you.
I just would love to know a little bit more about you. So how did you get into this industry in the first place?
That's a really good question. When I studied at uni, I started study business administration and economics, and I wanted to go into the finance industry. Then there were bad times in Sweden, so I decided to study a little bit more. I took a second degree in statistics, mathematics, and programming, still with the ambition to go to the finance industry. But then got lured into this industry by saying, yeah, you know a little bit of statistics. Can't you do things here? And for me, this has been the perfect blend of business and science. I started in the science part, working as a statistician and data manager. And then I realized there are plenty of good statisticians, but I have a skill many statisticians lack: social skills. Yeah, ka-ching. No,
they are the most prized.
I went to the business side. Yeah,
they are the most prized skills within this industry, as you've clearly identified. I can confirm that you do have those skills in abundance, and you are continuing to expand in that particular area. So tell me a little bit more about Viedoc and how that all came about.
Viedoc actually came out of a necessity. The necessity being that me and my co-founder, we worked at the CRO, and they were in some bad times and they had to let people go. So we started a CRO. We thought there was a gap in the Nordic market. This was in 2003, and most of the things were done on paper. And we thought, okay, let's actually build our own eClinical system, not for others to use, but for ourselves to be more competitive and modern in the local market. We looked around at different systems. We were a newly founded company, so we couldn't afford them, and we didn't think they were good enough for our needs. So we started developing this software for our own needs. It took a few years, and even our competitors in the local market in the Nordics said, yeah, we kind of like your system. Can't we also use it? That was the start of expanding the Viedoc system. We started out of necessity.
It's an amazing point that you make there, which is we needed a system, so we built one. It would have been a lot harder in early 2000s as well, before the days of APIs, ChatGPT, and all the other tools that we have at our easy disposal now. So how on earth did you start? Where did you start? With a blank sheet of paper?
We had built systems earlier on Oracle-based systems and Microsoft Access, and we had done that quite successfully in the previous company. We had some ideas. And 2003, yeah, you could say it was more difficult, but you could also say it was more easy as well, because it was a blank sheet of paper and we could do what we wanted. And so, yes, it was like, we've done this paper process. Now that internet is coming and it's obviously going to change the market. It was my co-founder, Hendrik, and he took the initiative and made most of the requirement specifications for the early versions, etc. And I was more on the business side. But we both saw the potential. This was a joint work, but it was truly something we saw. This is the future, not doing things on paper. We found a business model around it and captured the Nordic market very quickly. The first years we were just local in the Nordics.
It's an amazing story of success and growth and opportunity, right place, right time, right momentum. And clearly there were some skills and an opportunity that afforded itself. Around that time, I started in the industry in mid to late 90s. Paper was a thing. For all our audience, we used to do everything on paper. Technology was advancing very quickly then. That was early Windows and various other systems in the market at the time. You've seen some incredible changes throughout your career. Are there some particular things that stand out for you as really being major points of change which drove opportunity themselves?
Oh, yeah, different perspectives. When you start these things, we came to our first clients and said there was an accepted paper process. We actually had some clients who believed in us and said, yeah, let's try this. You can't be thankful enough for your first clients. We don't have a solution, but we have a draft or it's very early in the journey and they support you. You can't thank those clients enough. We made some major steps. We attracted one major pharma company out of coincidence. I had been in Paris at the conference with a client and it worked out well. So I was sitting in a lounge in Paris. This was the 1st of November, I believe, in 2008. I was sitting in the lounge and I saw a woman working on a computer a few meters away. She was working on something in PowerPoint. I understood what she was working with and said, oh, I see we are in the same industry. We started talking and after a while she said, okay, show me your system. I demoed the system and she loved it. She was working for one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. Split and I thought, okay, I'll follow up. I was due to go on vacation. So I thought, okay, I'm going to call her in 2 weeks' time. Next morning, on the Saturday morning at 8:30 in the morning, she was calling me and said, I called my bosses in New York and can we meet on Monday? I was on vacation. My colleague and another partner also took over. And it took 1 year and 26 days before we actually got that global deal with them, which was on the newspapers and everything. So it's so many things that happen. And it's not something I did, it's something that we did. And you have opportunities, whatever happens, it's the opportunity and work hard. Every time we over-delivered what they wanted in that process.
You couldn't have been in a better place on that occasion. And you stuck to your holiday guns.
I did, but we had some conversations and I prepared the first budget during the vacation. It was fun. 1 year and 26 days. Then we signed a global.
Do you know what? That sounds about the right kind of time for a pharma company to make a decision, doesn't it? I think
Probably quick. No, but I remember the contract. And that was the first time I was doing a contract on that level. It was like 60 plus pages. And I was like, what does this really mean? Of course, we had attorneys helping us. You need to understand things anyway. And yeah, it took some time. Well, it was great.
So for our audience's understanding, Viedoc became a CRO that provided technology, and did the technology then advance beyond the CRO?
Not all these were easy decisions, and in hindsight, it's easy to say it was a rational route. Not all of us were in agreement. We were actually 3 founders, 1 left, and then we were 2 founders, and then we added 3 more partners. So it was our partner group that took these decisions. Not all decisions were easy. We had 1 company, then we split the companies into 2 different companies. One was a CRO and one was a tech company. We sold the CRO in 2018 to a local competitor. We got a new majority owner in the technology company in 2019, which is a private equity focusing on business-to-business companies. And it was interesting because when we got that major pharma deal, we saw that we had a global potential in that one. We put really tough restrictions on the CRO. The CRO could only work in the Nordic market because we realized if the CRO expanded outside the Nordics, we would compete with potential clients, CROs. Of course, we're selling licenses to both CRO sponsors alike, but the vast majority of the work orders were, of course, coming through CROs. So we limited the CRO, and that was very frustrating for our CRO employees. So it was a tough one. But it wasn't until we actually sold the CRO that that we really could expand quickly. That is because everyone thought, okay, yeah, you still have that CRO. You can steal our clients because you have insight. We had created a firewall, but one thing is, of course, something you're saying, and another thing is what you're doing. So I think it was the focus, and it was, okay, we're selling it, and now it's a clear split. And then really Viedoc took off. And that is one of the major reasons why it took off.
I think the delineation of the service provision is clear and necessary. I know of a particular Nordic pharma company that did something similar with an IT arm, and I can't mention them, but you'll know the one I'm talking about. I've heard conversations around that. There is a very distinct requirement to separate arms, as you described. The buyout clearly facilitated that even better.
And it's also,
Clear water.
also the focus of the owner group as well. I have high respect for the ones providing the services because it's a difficult industry to be in a CRO. Developing a software, the first version is typically relatively easy, but to scale it globally and having more 24/7, true 24/7 support, different IT centers, and having multiple clients with different requirements and time zones and everything, that is difficult. So the first version to serve one client, 2 clients, 3 clients, 10 clients is relatively simple. But once you go global, that is complex. So for us, it was focus. We could focus on the software.
Yeah, it makes sense actually. And I think the other thing that came to mind was the difference in skill sets, because as technologists, the development of platforms, systems, and the complexities of those are very different to the day-to-day service provision that you have in clinical trials and clinical research organizations. So I can see why that is a very different skill set and not one that many people can bridge.
No, it was a learning curve for us as well, because we all came out of the 5 partners that we were, 4 of us were statisticians. So we were trained in services, but we transformed.
No, it's brilliant. And thank you for sharing that. I think that's very helpful for our audience to understand a little bit more about Viedoc and that transition. You've seen a lot. You will have seen a lot of changes. What do you see as some of the big moving parts right now in the industry with regards to technology and some of the challenges that are around the industry today?
Oh, I love that question. Unfortunately, my response is maybe a little provocative, especially for the data management field. Where I see the most transition happening right now is more in the clinical operations space. We've done, understand me, relatively easy to do the logic in forms and doing the logic of data flows. But right now, with more experience in the language models, you can do more things also with the authoring and orchestration around clinical trials, i.e., that could be protocols, but it's also how to arrange the trial management systems, etc. And you can see a lot of things happening there right now. Also around feasibility analysis, evaluation of the data continuously instead of having data monitoring committees, etc. The first natural step is logic. It was data management. And there's still a lot of things that can be done there, the AI and everything. But what I see right now is a lot happening in the clinical operations field or overall management. We will see a lot of changes coming from there that will impact data management. If you author a protocol and then you have a model like USDM, you can set up the system in minutes instead of weeks. This can only do 80-90%. And would need some manual adjustments, but it changes the industry. And then you can have live monitoring, not only of the data, but also of the operational aspects of the study and how that will influence how we manage the data in studies. So it's going to have a fundamental change in the industry. And right now, because the LLMs are getting more advanced, this will affect data management downstream.
Where do you sit on that particular point? Because we were both at the same conference recently where this was talked about being the great disruptor. And I've had various conversations, both on the podcast and outside, where people have said, yes, it's going to be the great disruptor. And others have said business as usual. We're a conservative industry. Things move very slowly. Don't hang your hat on this one. I'm just curious where your position is about that particular point, because there are very different opinions right now, aren't there? We are at an absolutely inflection point. I think we will look back probably in 2 or 3 years' time and say, perhaps this was an inflection. But I'm just curious where you sit on that particular.
I think there will be some early companies doing this on a scale, and where we will learn and everyone will benefit in a few years. As with any new technology process coming around, there will be some trailblazers that go, into that direction, and everyone will be thankful afterwards. Thank you that the experience you gained are now into the new processes, etc. So yes, this is not for everyone. And as in any new opportunity, there are a lot of companies flocking to this because they see if we can win this race. But it will not be for everyone, at least 3 years, 3 to 5 years. So I think both are right. Yes, it will change. As we can see with any new process, we have the decentralized clinical trials. That was the future. And a lot of companies said, yeah, never going back, and they are back. We tend to overestimate the short-term effects, but underestimate the long-term effects. I think we are between those two standpoints, somewhere in the middle. It will affect us. We don't know exactly the scale yet, but there will be a few companies investing a lot, and we all will gain from that in a few years' time.
Thank you for sharing that insight. It's helpful to have as many perspectives on this as possible. There are many young people coming into this industry now, and we need to attract that new talent. You and I are fairly well advanced in our vintage these days. And I want to encourage young people to come into this industry as much as it being a place of innovation and change. You've described your own experiences of innovation and change.
I think I need to challenge the industry a little bit.
Go ahead.
The thing is, what we say now, we have the best people training the models. We have the best people advancing science and new methods, etc. Certainly, with a hope, yes, we can make more efficient processes. We will not need as many people, etc. But what we will see, and we have seen that now in imaging, where they have AI getting more and more advanced, coming out with better conclusions than humans. But then at the same time, what is happening is that the radiologists get comfortable and don't get as knowledgeable in the future. The next gen coming in, maybe we don't need so many of them, and suddenly we lose knowledge and we are reliant on the technology. So what we need as an industry, we still need to attract people, even though there are efficiencies in these new technologies, because else we will lose in 5 years, in 10 years, because AI took over and we don't have the next gen coming in, and they don't understand where we've been heading. So it's very important, especially for a knowledge intensive industry as ours. We need new talent all the time. To your point, train them and make them enjoy and thrive in the industry. This is super important.
Yeah, it was something that really energized me when I first came into this industry. The fact that there seemed to be a very sweet spot around medical information, data, and tech was the thing that seemed to light my fire. I still think that's the case. And I think what you're alluding to is really around elevating one's skill set even further outside of what you're learning in lecture theatres and online and on various platforms. It's nuanced around building on those skill sets, isn't it? It's still being the human in the loop. It's still being the expert in alignment around decision making. That's key. There will always be a human to make the ultimate decision. And I think moving that forward, it reminds me of something I was listening to not so long ago around effectively being lazy. We don't want the next generation to be lazy. We want them to still be curious, but actually more curious, because they're going to have to go deeper. On the surface, the data might look fine, but peeling back the layers, it's going to take more strategic understanding of what's bringing it to the fore beyond these LLMs and tools and other mechanisms whereby it looks like you've got clean data. It looks like the TFLs and the outputs. We've got a lovely smooth curve there and a great uptake of that drug.
It's a little bit like the checklists. We've done this magnificent checklist and I've checked all the boxes. I'm done. But you need to think outside the checklist as well. It's the same thing here.
Circling back to your earlier days, were there particular mentors and friends or people that encouraged you to get into this industry in the first place? Was there anyone that really held your hand and gave you the guidance that you've given to others?
I worked briefly at probably the first electronic patient diary or ePro company globally, a Swedish company called MiniDoc. The founders there were instrumental. Then I had a CEO at my first job. He was also instrumental in attracting me to stay in this industry, see both the science and the business. Very dynamic. So yeah, in the early days, they were really persons that I looked up to. But there are so many I'm very grateful that they were early in the industry and made me interested. As I said earlier, I was looking at the finance industry and I'm very happy that I never ended up there. For me, I read protocols, I read articles about clinical research. I'm very interested in the clinical research and the processes. I'm a bit of a nerd there and I can't thank them enough for helping me becoming that nerd.
I think you've got a very fine balance between nerd and communicator because you have wonderful skills. When I've seen you present and when I've seen you interview other people, interestingly, you seem to have an understanding of people and there is a warmth around which you do that. So there is a very nice alignment around that particular point. So thank you for sharing that. And it's always interesting for our audience to hear how people got into these roles and what elevated them to another level. Similarly, there are people that guided me along the way. And whether they be personal, professional, it doesn't matter. It's really just about following the signs, isn't it? Where are the opportunities? Who can you learn from? Who can you piggyback on the back of? And more importantly, who does something really well? There have been organizations where I have worked that have been led by companies that I didn't admire the leaders of. And I always wondered how on earth some of those people got to the top. Because it certainly wasn't on their presentation skills, and it wasn't on the fact that they were gregarious and outgoing and had something special. And yet when you see that in people where they do have that something special, it shines and lights the room.
It does. We are very lucky to be in an industry where people really burn for the ideas to develop something, but also helping people drive science and processes, making things better, quicker, cheaper. I'm so grateful to be in this industry. Some of my competitors are fantastic people. And as you said, I'm more on the investment and board level right now, helping startup companies. It's amazing. The next gen. It's fantastic.
We talked about the Association of Clinical Data Management and your involvement in that. I'm curious as to how you got involved in it and what your continuing interest is, because that is a place where I see incredible enthusiasm, amazing energy, and phenomenal human beings.
I agree with you. First of all, I've always been working in volunteer organizations, so it was natural for me to try to engage. I spoke to the previous chair, Ian Pinto, on a number of occasions, and he believed in me. He recommended me to the board. Very grateful to Ian for this. There are so many changes in the industry, and we have a magnificent board now with diverse experiences, insights, and backgrounds. It's an enjoyment to work there. We do this on a volunteer basis, but the persons around it is just amazing. So for me, I asked, okay, could I get involved? I think I have some experience which might be beneficial for the board level, and he believed in me. That was my background. But I've been working on volunteer organizations all my life, and I'm also part of other organizations right now. I believe in data decisions. In the local area, we are true to our industry, but we're also true to where you come from and support. So I'm active in an organization called EUCROF, which is an organization for life science service vendors, where we try to promote the European perspective. Yeah, we all have our different perspectives, and I do that on a volunteer basis as well. It's fun to do things and give back.
I couldn't agree with you more, and thank you for sharing that particular experience. I wonder, you talked about EUCROF and, of course, the UK being outside of the EU these days.
EUCROF is for Europe. It's not EU.
Ah, okay. So good.
No, so it's all for Europe. And last time I looked at the map, UK was still there.
When that decision was made by other people and not by my own, I was commuted to Copenhagen. I do have a very deep love for the Nordics as well. And I was working for a Danish pharma company at the time, commuting there. And I do recall landing the day after, showing my passport and having a shake of the head by the passport person who stamped me. That was before we had the different queues when coming through passport control. I think what I've learned from working across geographies, particularly across Europe and the US, is the rich tapestry of learning from one another across cultures, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I'm a European, so of course I love Europe, and whatever I can do to help Europe, it's just necessity. It comes out of necessity. And if you look at Europe in particular, we have some challenges. We have the competitiveness of Europe is on decline. Maybe we are going to change it now. It's fragmented. We have so many political levels, and what's good for one country might not be as good for another. And then you have conflicts, and then we often come to a decision maybe in the right direction, but with the least common denominator instead of seeing the greatness of Europe. So there are some things to work on, but the awareness now of working together is strong. And whether you come from UK or Greece or Sweden, wherever you come from, we are in the same region and we need to work together. We see the geopolitical things happening right now, and we have many different regions competing with each other. We need to work together. So I think we have many opportunities. We'll just need to agree on some things in common. And I see greatness in Europe for sure.
I wholeheartedly agree on that, and we are stronger together. I'm curious, is there a question that I haven't asked you today that perhaps I should have asked? A burning question.
I'm very much interested in geopolitics right now. So the question is, what happens next for Europe? That is a burning question for me. We have some challenges now geopolitically, and how we're going to solve that. That's high on my agenda right now. And to see, at the same time, we are one region out of many globally. We need to find ways to work together. We are, as a world, much stronger together. And as ACDM has a lot of members outside Europe, we can't just be a European organization. We need to work together globally and find the best in each of us.
I think there's a message there that perhaps the ACDM could be the route through the geopolitical challenges. If we were to apply some of the principles of the ACDM, perhaps the world would be a better place. I'm going to play that one back to the ACDM board, and I encourage you to do the same.
No, I think we've covered the most important things. So
thank you. I really appreciate your honesty and your transparency and the manner in which you deliver that, Sverre. At this point in the conversation, I always like to finish with a quick fire round. What is the one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
I've always been someone who's been all over the place. For me, it would be focus. At university, I was doing all things. Nowadays, I'm engaged in many different activities. So I guess, and I think my wife would agree to that, is focus.
What are the top 3 qualities you value most when building a team?
Willingness to chip in, honesty, transparency. Yeah.
That's a great phrase, by the way. I know you spent a lot of time with Brits if you're coming up with a willingness to chip in. That's superb language. What is your favorite thing outside of work?
Oh, my family. And that includes my dog, Molly. Maybe you heard some sounds when she was roaming around here trying to get my attention all the time to play. She's been home with me all day now, and she wants to go out walking. Yeah, I have a super fun job right now. I'm helping startup companies. I'm investing and everything. So it's super fun. Yeah. Enjoy life. I enjoy it.
It certainly sounds like you're living your best life. And finally, what is your number one golden rule for life and for business?
Be humble. Do your best. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you for sharing that. We've covered an awful lot of ground in this conversation. It's been a pleasure to spend time with you. For any of our audience, if they want to make contact with you, what's the best way to reach out?
Easy. LinkedIn. Sometimes I'm an addict to LinkedIn and then I need to detox myself, but don't worry, I'll be back again.
My favorite ones are when you're walking through an airport and you're filming yourself. Those are the ones I prefer the most. They're the ones that seem to get the most engagement from me.
I was in Brussels this week and I failed to take a photo, but I've been on the conveyor belt as well, taking films and everything. So I tried to do something extra, but I forgot it this time. So maybe I should take a video now walking my dog here. I don't know.
I think Molly could be the next star of the show and certainly the next star of the ACDM conference. It's been an absolute delight speaking to you today, Sverre. Thank you for taking the time and thank you for being on Pharma Prescribed.
Thank you. It was an honor to be talking to you, Adam, and I wish the best of success now for Pharma Prescribed. Thank you very much.